Good morning and welcome to the 21st in our Shift, Sustain, Succeed series. We have shifted, or at least for a while we thought we were sustaining. Some days were better than others. And it may be hard to actually see success on the other side of COVID, but we're the chamber and we've seen the resilience of our business community and we are ready to be part of helping the community plan for a better future. So we are officially moving this series into the Succeed portion to help better connect people to the information that they need. Today's guests are the alumni from the classes of 2019 and 2020 Leadership Venango. And today they will share their experience in Leadership Venango, what led them to make a commitment to participate, and a snapshot of what they learned and why they think others should take this journey with us. As things continue to change, please remember that what we share today is based on the information that we have available today. We will do our best to bring you current information as things change. If you have any additional questions to what we have prepared for today, please submit them in the Zoom chat and we'll do our best to include them towards the end, or we'll do a follow-up. So I know all of our alumni are happy to talk with anyone that might be interested in learning more about their experience. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And Dan, I think you've told me that you'll kick us off here. So what attracted you to be part of the class of Leadership Venango? You were part of our inaugural class, something that you didn't even know what you were getting into perhaps, but what inspired you to take the journey?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. And I think we're a lot of lives to be the best at what we can do, or attain the best position, and along the way sometimes you don't realize what you're getting into when you finally do get that position or something that requires leadership. So for me, once I did achieve a position of leadership where I had people that I was impacting, I finally realized I might need some help in acquiring new skills or harnessing skills I already had and implementing them in my position. So I wanted to sign up for this to help on that path for implementing those traits, and then probably more importantly, learning from and interacting with people who are dealing with similar decision making. What are they going through? And sometimes it's just a vent, or find out creative ways of expressing our leadership. So the camaraderie and finding out you're not alone in this was important for me.
Thanks, Dan. Is there anyone else alumni-wise that would like to suggest what inspired them to get started?
This is Kat. So I think for me, it was seeing the success of the first class. So I got to kind of hear about it and see what they were doing and follow along in the chamber newsletter. And so kind of taking a look at what they were doing there, it inspired me to, want to be a part of it. And I kind of decided, I'm going to make this happen, whether, my employer's going to assist with it or not. Obviously the employer had to be on board with it, but I just saw how impactful it was with the first class, and that's what really made me go for it.
Great, thank you. Saxon, how soon did you start to find value in the program? Did you, was it actually, we're actually going through the program or at completion? What was your
I would say right off the bat, starting with the group retreat that we were able to kick off our year with, I think the opportunity just to be around other leaders in the community, getting to know them on a more personal level, taking some of the personality testing, and then even the team building activities. I think that just really set the stage for us to grow together as a group throughout the remainder of the program. So I took away a lot from the retreat, and then each and every week that we had, or each and every month that we had a session, I felt that I walked away with something new that I could apply both, at work, at home, or just in my own, personal life. So I just think as it was going, I continued to pick up on new things or sharpening some of the skills that I had already had. So I really found value right from the get-go.
Yeah, we heard about you starting to take away from the retreat and implement things that work right away. And I think, that's a lesson for anyone in anything they do, practical application of, when you're going through classes of any kind or training is the best way to make sure that you're receiving the value. If any of the alumni want to add anything, you can just take yourself off mute and kind of say, hey, would like to add to that. Jess, were you able to apply immediately, and or did lessons become applicable later, even that surprised you?
So I would say I agree with Saxon. Immediately from the retreat, doing the personality testing, learning what we learned about not only ourselves and our personality traits and how we work, and bringing that back to the office and kind of seeing those characteristics and traits in coworkers and how to better work with them, even applying it to personal life and volunteering and things like that. At the retreat, we did a vision for our class, and Saxon and I were able to bring that back immediately to our employer, and we're like, we want to do this with all of our centers. And that took on, and that began to implement some changes here at CDC just from those visionings that we did with each center. I think that one of the biggest classes that impacted me was the poverty class training that we did. And being able to see how poverty affects the area we live in. Obviously, where I work at, we deal with a lot of low-income families. So that was something that was huge to kind of open my eyes even more for something we deal with day to day. And it was interesting how other areas may not have directly related to where I work, but at the same time, I was able to comment on conversations with friends and family about the area and the leadership and the community and things we could do where, a lot of times people are saying there's no way to make a difference. And it's like, oh, wait, hold on, I learned, and it was surprising. A lot of the classes that I didn't think would impact me, or that I thought I already knew enough about, that I didn't really, I wouldn't gain anything from. Those were often the classes that there was just a little bit more that I didn't realize. I mean, I've lived in Venango County my entire life. I grew up here, I left, I came back. And so it was really interesting to see those little things from each class that I didn't even know, being a lifelong, resident that way of the area. So it was really neat to be able to take, and it was surprising, some of the things and the things that we're still implementing and still using that we learned from the class.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jess. I think about myself in the class because, as many of you know, I'm, really kind of lay out the class with a lot of input from my staff and other leaders that I call upon. But that said, each and every class, I learn new things about my leadership journey and about the area. I see Betsy's on the call with me today, and Betsy and I were part of a leadership program 14, 15 years ago. And, going through a leadership program with different people at a different time, has been really valuable for me. So while I'm not considered part of the class, I would hope that anyone that might already think, oh, I've been through a leadership class, or I'm, I've already, been around for a long time, so I know everything from the region, would understand that there may be value in just going through it with new people during a different time. So, and any other alumni that want to add to that or share any of your own experiences? Okay. Well, Kat, did you have any favorite aspects of the program, things that are really stood out?
I did. I know this is going to sound cheesy, but really it was all of it. The lectures were so insightful and such a great learning experience, and such a variety of speakers. The tours were amazing. I mean, I grew up in the area, between Crawford and Venango County, and, going into all these businesses and seeing how they work, what they do was so interesting. And just great to see, that's, with the line of work I'm in, people always say, oh, there's no jobs here. Well, there are actually, and look at all these really cool things that we do in our county. And then just the networking was incredible as well. Even, during lunch breaks, when we're sitting there eating lunch and getting to talk with each other, get to know each other, and get to know, whatever guest speakers or guests we had that were just eating lunch with us, were amazing. So really, I know it sounds like I'm, just the cheerleader, but I loved every part of it. The retreat was awesome. I, was a, youth camp kid, going away to sleepaway camp all the time. And so that kind of reminded me of that a little bit. And that was really great to really get to know the group, and, taking that personality assessment was a lot of fun, and really kicking it off in a great way. So, I really, truly loved every part of it. So it was all my favorite.
So it's a good time maybe for me to comment that as we go into this year and recruiting a class, there are unknowns. There are still unknowns. And I think that some of those will have to be answered by the class itself, as we determine what is safe, what feels comfortable, what will continue to add value. While I would love to see us do a retreat, we'll kind of have to feel out whether that can be an in-person retreat, in part an in-person, or whether we start the class all virtual and then plan for a future with in-person events. So that's still a little unknown, but we will allow the class to have input on how we proceed. I'm curious if anyone would be willing to, any of the alumni that were part of the second class, comment on the overnight, because I think there was some anxiety about that. Even as adults, we think, oh my, do I really want to do an overnight with people I don't know? And then I heard positive comments out the other side. Does anyone, Jess, it looks like you're willing to comment on that?
I was going to say, I can definitely, and Saxon can probably agree with me, because fortunately we knew each other working together going into the retreat, but I'm the type of person that I don't mind strangers, but being in a situation where I'm there for the night with these people, I have no idea who they are, it was a little intimidating, especially as an adult. It was out of my comfort zone. I mean, camping and staying away from home, that's great, but just to know that it was like a retreat and there were actual classes planned, and then finding out that we were going to be doing, things with each other, like trust activities and stuff. It was a little unnerving at first. And I think one of the biggest things was like sharing a room with a complete stranger. And I bunked with Carrie, and we ended up finding out we had so much in common, and we're able, to connect and stuff outside of that afterwards. So it was great to be able to learn from that. And I think forcing that interaction at the very beginning helped our class become so close, because we were kind of just, there with each other. There wasn't a lot of outside influences or anything like that. So it was really neat to have that bond from the beginning. And it was definitely, like I said, a little nerve-wracking going into it, but I'm extremely grateful that we started it that way.
And I was kind of like any parent sending their kids off to camp. I was a little nervous for everybody. I hope everyone gets along with their bunkmates. I will say right now that in the event that we are able, under any circumstances, to do an in-person, and with any consideration of an overnight, it would be private rooms, of course. And again, that all stands to be determined. But Carrie, was Jessica a good roommate? Did that got off to a good start for you?
Yeah, she was. I was a camp kid like Kat. So for me, I thought, yes, I'm going to get out of the office for, a couple days and meet some new people. So for me, there wasn't this anxiety piece, I guess, related to it. So.
Good. Well, again, we had great comments once we got through the overnight. Let's see where we're at. And does anybody else want to share favorite things, any takeaways from the class that you just, we always do, one of the things we do with the alumni, and we're going to be doing later this week, is the debrief to say, what did we do that you couldn't live without now, that has to be part of every class? So we've kind of identified what those key things are that are so valuable universally that we'll keep them included. And then other things that are like, well, they were good, but let's try another flavor of that.
I wanted to bring up Joe Krosky, who's probably my favorite presenter of the entire program. I just felt like his stuff on mindfulness really put us in a challenging spot, which really helped us, get better, get out of our comfort zone, have some of those difficult conversations. And I just felt that they were really productive, interesting, and engaging sessions that I walked away really thinking differently and having a new perspective on, whatever we discussed. So I really came away, changed by what he talked about.
Great. Well, I don't have anybody's name beside this, so I'm going to throw it out there and see who might be willing to answer. What was the most challenging thing about the program? And is there any chance that challenge became a benefit? How did you take something that was hard at the time and it became something good?
I'll take this one. The most challenging thing for me was that it was just like super out of my comfort zone. I had just started at the chamber like 2 months before I started the program. And I was not used to, having to small talk and do all this stuff with strangers. And it was just like really out of my comfort zone. But that ended up being such a good thing for me because, I feel like after the program, I felt so much more comfortable like at mixers or, with work stuff. And it helped me expand my network a lot. So yeah, I mean, that at first I was like, how am I going to do this? This is so awkward. I feel so weird and out of place, but it ended up being one of the benefits for me.
Any others that can take a show?
in
Greg,
there, too.
yep.
I'm
And
one of
Greg and
the-
Tracy were part of 2 different year classes, so.
I was part of the first year. Tracy was second year. One of the challenges was our group had a bunch of different people with a bunch of different backgrounds, with a bunch of different ideas. And the challenge was when there's a different idea out there, to sit and how can you help me see your side of this was one of my biggest challenges. And that ended up being one of the best parts of the class, was to be able to see where everybody else is coming from and to have the comfort level with all the other people in the class to be able to do that. And so that was one of my favorite parts of the class, is that ability to do that. So.
And Tracy, not to put you on the spot, but did you see that evolution with Greg, learning to like kind of consider other views?
Yeah, he kind of, not to ditch him, but my way or the highway, and you could, he'd get to the end point, but to take a step back and really think about where everybody else is coming from to find the best solution.
Yeah, talk about a journey of leadership. I mean, when in history has there been a time in our history, with assuming that most of us are under 80 years old, maybe, when in that history have we more needed to kind of step back and consider, where someone else is coming from? So I'm so happy that the class, brought you that. I don't think that in the questions that follow, I have any questions specifically about the projects. So I would be curious if anyone found projects to be challenging, and then, if so, if that just became wasted time or something that taught you something along the way. Any comments on that?
I think the projects were challenging, just particularly finding an idea that we felt was going to be effective and worthwhile. We don't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. We wanted it to be a real project that was going to have an impact and be a resource to people in the community. So we really thought long and hard and just batted around a couple different ideas before we really settled on one. And then working in a group of 4, you obviously have different opinions and different ways we want to push things. And it's really just trying to come to a compromise. And then COVID hits and adds a whole other layer to communication problems and timelines. And it really threw our project upside down at one point. So we had the added challenge of COVID, but in general, it was a challenge. But I think we ended up coming out better for it. I think we're really proud of what we produced, and it really just taught us to buckle down and get things done in the face of adversity. So I thought of it as a learning experience. It's very much like what you were used to growing up through high school or even in college with group projects. But I think we try to take away the positives out of the whole experience.
Yeah, and I just have to agree with Saxon. We were in the same group. What a learning experience. Yes, it was challenging, but I mean, I was just sitting here trying to start listing, problem solving, teamwork skills, like all of those soft skills. I literally just did a workshop on soft skills yesterday, what employers want. And we were living those things: flexibility, adaptability, communication in lots of different ways. It was challenging, but what a practical case study in learning things other than the actual stuff, you know, the project itself, but all of those soft skills that we were flexing quite a bit to get through the different challenges. What an amazing learning experience with both the actual content and the skills that went into it.
Yeah, I think even as the kind of lead planner for the program, it's really tempting to want to take that pain away from future classes. You know, that's what I've heard from both classes, is figuring out what project to do and how to proceed was the hardest part. Once you kind of figured it out, not that it was easy from that point, but then you could put steps in place. And I think even as I sit here today trying to figure out some things that are in my next few months, that planning process is the hard part. It is the learning part. And I don't know that we should strip that away from, you know, from what we do. It's actually really, really valuable. So thank you for adding about that. So Kat, I think we've got your name too here beside, you know, who do you think is the best candidate for participating? I'm going to kind of roll that into the next question I had, you know, on what I provided you. Yeah. Who makes a really great participant? What are the kind of characteristics that lead to success in the program?
Well, as we've already kind of heard, we've had quite a diverse group. You know, some people were excited about, you know, interacting with others. Some people had a little apprehension. We've had, and I think both classes, some people who have, you know, our managers, they have people that they manage under them. Some of us do not. So you don't have to be a manager to take this leadership class. You just have to want to make yourself better and to be better at your job, whether it's, you know, career, or I'm also involved in Flex. So I really thought about it in that aspect, but, you know, working with, you know, my company, working with my participants, you know, my customers, it really just kind of helps with everything. So honestly, I think anyone who has a willing heart, you know, you might still have some of that apprehension, but I think especially for 2021, a good candidate is going to be those visionaries, right? Those people who are ready to step up, think outside the box, because, you know, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, that's the world we're living in right now. So I think, you know, those people who are, you know, ready to step up to the challenge, you know, each class so far has been historic. You know, we had 2019, the inaugural class. We had 2020, you know, going into the pandemic. 2021 is going to be coming through it, hopefully out of it. I mean, who knows? So I think that, you know, really anyone can benefit, but I think for next year, it's got to be somebody who's like ready to go, man, ready to figure out, problem solve, be flexible, be adaptable. And also for people who want to get more involved in the community, I think, you know, it's not just, oh, I need to be a better manager. It's not just that kind of leadership class. It can really help connect you with the community, and just be a better version of yourself in whatever aspects you're living and working in. So really, I think anybody can benefit from this, but I think again, for next year, you gotta have a little bit of grit. You know, this is going to be, we got to be on your toes, right? So I'm excited to see, you know, what that class is going to look like, and excited to support them as alumni. But it's going to be another historical class for sure.
Yeah, a journey. You know, I've actually kind of thought, as I set forth a vision, in fact, I need to do that. I need to put my vision for this class on paper, but really thinking about how this is a class that will journey through unprecedented times, as they say. So it may be an opportunity for some experienced leaders to say, we're on a unique leadership journey, so maybe we ought to do it together. The one thing I would suggest that we have not had in the class is a lot of age diversity. So we've had our first class, we're all under 40. Our second class, we're, with the exception of only a couple, under 40. So there were advantages of that kind of like-minded, you know, age set, but we probably lacked some of the just experience of having, experience the community and leadership in different ways. So I certainly would suggest to those who either are in a more seasoned time of their life in their leadership journey, or by age, or that knows someone that you think might really love to be going through this together with people who are willing to learn, that they might be really great applicants for this year. I'll just insert in here too. I'm going to advance my slide real quick. We will, as always with our Shift, Sustain, Succeed, have other resources for you, which will mostly link out to leadership, I'm sure, out on our website. But we'll also be considering, this year's program is a cost of $950, but we have scholarships available. And last year we didn't even, I don't think quite got to using all of our scholarships. So we would not want a financial burden to be in the way of anyone participating, but we do believe that some level of commitment, of financial commitment, helps inspire people to embrace the class. And as Kat said, while you don't necessarily need an employer to put you in the class, there is a certain level of commitment from your employer that is needed for attendance, to know that they, I think, will support what you're learning in the class as well. Another question here that I don't have a name beside, but I'd love to know, we kind of talked about how you use things from the class, but does anybody have any specific tools or talks or lessons that they go back and reference frequently from the class? I hear that from people at times, but anyone want to share any of those? Anyone out there?
I missed the question because my internet froze. Could you repeat it one more time?
Sorry. Yep. Is there anything specific from the class, a tool, a lesson, a talk that you frequently revisit and apply in what you do?
I don't know if I revisit anything in particular other than the visioning, which we kind of hinted at earlier that we took right away and applied. It kind of got thrown for a loop with the COVID situation, but I think we're going to continue to look at that as a resource for our organization and ourselves internally, just to get better and to give our employees a voice. I think that tool was probably the most valuable one that we took away, and it was right at the beginning of the retreat, as we mentioned earlier. So that's primarily what I go back to. I have looked at my personality scores a couple times just to, in reference to talk to somebody about it. Other than that, I think those are the two primary tools.
Yeah, I agree with the personality. I kind of took notes on everybody when we started at the retreat, and kind of looked at it again when we got into our groups. Okay, what's everybody's personality? What were some of the key characteristics for that? Is that going to affect how we work together? And then we actually took that and did it with our Flex leadership team. We took the personality assessments and kind of went through as a leadership group. So we found that really interesting and helpful, and I've kind of gone back to look at that a couple times.
Dan, did you have something?
Yeah, I kind of blend a lot of different pieces. Just the repeated idea that there are differences in perspectives and approaches in tackling problems. So I combine that with the idea of the elevator pitch, that not only an elevator pitch about myself, but goals. So if you can make your goals clear and concise while understanding that everyone to get there might take a different path or have different suggestions, will help you along the way. So setting clarity up front, and then being willing to adapt and work with people along the way to get there has helped me a lot.
Great. Well, I won't kind of steal the thunder from Brian McNulty. I hope that those who haven't had the chance yet will go ahead and read the article in our newsletter this month. Brian was the kind of featured story, and he'll tell you what some of his takeaways were that he goes back to and references often. Suffice it to say, his why is a big one. I ran into him before he was named to his most recent position, and he was excited that going into an interview, he took with him his concept of his why and why that would be important as a leader of our local PennDOT offices. So take the time to read that, and you'll see his, and I would encourage our alumni to think about that and how you share that with others. So Dan, we're kind of coming to the end here, and my last question was from a business owner. Why is this an investment you're willing to make? Because you actually the library supported financially and time-wise your participation and then Annie's in the second year. Why are you willing to make that sacrifice on the part of your business?
I think there are two big reasons, one internally and one externally. Externally, in order to be successful in a community, you need to connect with that community and know the community that you're working with. This is a great program to be able to learn a lot of the ins and outs of our community and find out different areas that you didn't know existed or know really the inner workings of. That's one major part. And then internally, I think you need to show as an employer an investment in your employees for growth and development beyond just providing them a paycheck. So providing them an opportunity to grow and show that you have more faith in them to be a more active partner in your workplace beyond just showing up every day are big factors for us and big reasons why we plan on also participating in the third wave.
Great. Greg and Tracy, I wonder if you might comment briefly on that. You've had 2 employees in both of the classes.
We have, and we found every one of us has come out of it, I don't know, with a whole different perspective and new tools in our tool belt to use too. So I think it's very valuable, and yes, we're going to have round in the next class too. So keep it going.
That's great to hear. Well, as we are on even 9:32, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I think that everyone here, a quick call out. I'm going to see who I can see on my screen that were part of classes. Saxon was part of class 2. We had Kat part of class 2, Jessica class 2. I should say 2020. Dan was part of class 2019. Greg 2019, Tracy 2020. We've got Carrie, part of class 2020, Randy Arnold, who was 2019, Lauren 2020. I think I've got everybody that's on the call. So there are lots of others out there. I know they'd be happy to talk with you about the upcoming class. The applications, we're calling them applications of interest because we do need to answer some of those questions and understand we may have applicants that, depending on what we decide, it will or will not work for them this year. But we would encourage everyone to get those in as quickly as possible so that in the next couple of weeks we can convene a meeting and decide how to proceed and do that to everyone's comfort and safety level, at the same time delivering the most value to the class. So I do think we will limit the number of participants in the class so that if we do anything in person, we are well within safety guidelines. So again, if you're interested, I would encourage you to just get that in. That application is not a commitment on your part, but an interest to be part of the conversation moving forward. So I thank all of you. I'm excited about my leadership journey, and I'm excited to be part of your leadership journey. So with that, check leadershipvenango.org for that application, more information to learn more about our alumni. You all have a wonderful Tuesday and a wonderful week. We'll see you.